Hey y'all, this is Jim here with Sunrise Farm. Thanks for stopping by. Finally, March has arrived. So what do we get started down here in the south in March? Absolutely everything. So let's just take a quick run through the list of all kinds of stuff that if you haven't already started, indoors or outdoors, there's a whole bunch that we can get going. It's not too late on some of them for sure. And then there's a whole bunch of things that we can talk about even in the factor of succession planting or starting another round. Even if you've already started some of your tomatoes and peppers like I have, there's no harm in starting more so that you have some to either fill in gaps, or if you're growing a determinate tomato and you started them many weeks ago, you can start another round today, just so you can plant those again and have a continued harvest through the summer. So let's run over a list of all these wonderful things that you can get planted in both seed trays and even in direct sowing outdoors. Anywhere in the south right now, it's like for us down here in Zone 8B, we're about a month away, or at the end of this month, our last frost date. So let's say about a month away from putting most of our spring summer crops in the ground. But there's so much that you can be starting in the ground now that you can start into cool weather, and it can tolerate even a mild frost, or it won't even emerge until that frost date is kind of come and gone for us. So let's just talk about this whole realm of things. There's so much to look forward to now. So we can get started with arugula. Now arugula can be direct seeded, or it can be started in seed trays. Basil, that can be started in a seed tray. Beets can actually be started in a seed tray or direct sown. Now beets are a multi-germ type of seed. That means you'll get 2, 3, 4, possibly even more plants or seedlings out of one seed. And that is what I actually have before you right here. This is a tray of 2 different types of beets, Detroit Red and a variety called Merlin. And the variety called Merlin is a hybrid variety, and it's got a lot better germination than a Detroit Red does. But these are started in seed trays, and I purposely only planted 1 seed per cell. And so like in this one there's 3, in this one there's 4, and in this one there's 4, and this one there's 4. So that's what I mean by beets being multi-germ seeds. They house many plants. And starting them in trays like this also affords you the opportunity of thinning them out and planting, because you can separate these and you could plant each one for a beet. So it would allow you to do more even spacing as well in your garden. So that's something to consider. Other things are going to be carrots directly sown, chives, probably generally better to start in seed trays. I've already started mine. Cilantro in trays. Now here's kind of I do have my list in kind of alphabetical order. It just helped me coordinate it. But here's one that you might not have thought of before. Corn. Corn can be started in trays right now if you so choose to do so. You may have never thought about corn being started in seed trays, but I can promise you I've absolutely done it in my 162 trays. And some of the reasons you may want to do that are, right now obviously I couldn't plant them in the ground for another couple of weeks, but I could get a head start on getting them to emerge and grow, and that way I can have a little better assurance of germination or planting spacing in my garden. I can also have those same plants of that age to fill in any gaps that may have occurred if a plant dies, meaning if I hold a few back, and some, not every plant you put in the ground is going to make it. So if some of them die, I have a way to fill in the gap. But there's also, corn in and of itself is a grass. And so with the weeds and grass and stuff that can grow in your garden, even to the best of your ability keeping it out of there, this prevents it from fighting that type of situation about weeds. Same thing applies for a lot of these things that you can start in trays anything you can start in a tray. Is it necessary? No, not always, but it does help greatly with plant spacing because you control that, and it also helps greatly with germination and growth as a seedling against even pest, but certainly against weeds and grass. So corn is something you can actually start in a tray if you wish. Cucumbers you can start in a tray. Now I will say cucumbers, as most people will tell you, cucumbers can be a little touchy. They don't exactly like being messed with, so when you plant it, when you start them in a seed tray and then you transplant them, there is a fair amount of potential for transplant shock. They don't exactly like that, but again, it is something you can do if you're both trying to, say, speed the season along a little bit, or evenly space your plantings, or again, just to fill in a gap should you have one die. So the cucumbers, and that would of course include pickles. You're pickling cucumbers. Now dill's another one, but that should be direct sown. Eggplant. If you haven't already started your eggplant, they're like tomatoes and peppers. Probably should have already been started by now. I've started many. But if you haven't done so, yeah, it's not too late. Go ahead and get them started. You know, obviously the warmer it gets, outside that is, the warmer the temperatures get, the better germination you'll probably have, and even slightly quicker. So lettuces, that includes your small head style, butter crunch style lettuces, your romaines, and even your loose leaf lettuces. Go ahead and get them all started if you haven't done so already. Certain melons, we can go ahead and start pretty soon anyway. Now, when I say start in March, this can be now or even any time in March, but some of the things that we want to watch out for, like cucumbers and melons, and then the zucchini and squash, which I'm also obviously going to mention, you might want to watch because some of that stuff is ready to go in the ground in about 3 weeks. So you either want to, I guess you want to kind of know your area, know your garden, and know what your intention is. If you start them a little early, you're either going to have to up pot them, or you're going to have to plant them early and take a little bit of a risk that there won't be a late frost. Certainly no harm in up potting them. I would try to avoid that with cucumbers. Like I said, they're already a little fickle, but certainly things like zucchini and squash and melons, yeah, no problem if you want to up pot them to give them more time. Just know that they grow pretty rapidly, and so bear that 3-ish week type of time frame in mind. So I probably won't start mine for another week or so, but definitely in March we're starting everything. So that's melons. So what type of melons? That could be watermelons. I will plant some watermelons, but I plant cantaloupe. I plant a whole row of cantaloupe, so I will get them started pretty soon. Probably, in all fairness, probably this coming week I'll start my cantaloupe. And yes, I'll start all of these in seed trays. Okra. Now, if you happen not to know what okra is or about, I would highly recommend it. It's kind of a southern delicacy, so to speak. But fried okra is really good. Some people like it pickled. I can't say that. I can't speak much to that one, but fried okra is really good. I've already started a whole 162 cell tray of okra several days ago, and it's actually starting to emerge. I planted 2 different varieties, so the one that's very common is Clemson Spineless. I planted a partial tray of that. Mainly those I'm going to be selling at my market. So, green onions. Now, down here in the South, can you plant onions and grow them now? Maybe. I'd probably put it more towards the probably not and get what you want or expect out of it. But you can absolutely grow green onions pretty much all year long. So planting onions is not a big thing if you're under the understanding that The onions are probably not going to get to a big bulbing phase, because right in about now is when they would start bulbing down here with short day onions. But you definitely can grow your onions for green onions. Sometimes they're called spring onions, and there's actually a third term for them that kind of gives all the same meaning, and it's slipping my mind right now. But oregano, you can do oregano in seed trays. However, know this, oregano is one of those kind of unique style plants that needs light to germinate. So just know that if you start some oregano, make sure you keep it in a lit place to help it along. I'm going to be doing some pak choi. Probably going to be direct seeding that, but you can start it in a seed tray. Peanuts. Peanuts may not be one that you've ever thought about growing. I grew some amazing peanuts last year. Unfortunately, if you saw one of my videos about peanuts, deer came in when those peanuts were very close, probably within the last month or so of growth, and through 2 nights in a row wiped me out. So don't worry, I'm taking care of that deer problem this year. I'm getting ready to, over the next several weeks, putting up a big old deer fence. I can't take that again. Had beautiful peanut plants going. Peas. I've already direct sowed mine last week. It's not too late if you get them in now. It's also, as I mentioned before in a video, if you have just a few peas that you're wanting to plant, like in a grow bag or a very small raised bed, kind of your backyard garden situation, you can absolutely start them in seed trays if you want. No problem there. Peppers. Again, it's like eggplant. If you haven't started your peppers already, all kind of varieties of peppers, right? I mean, you got your bell pepper, your jalapeno pepper, your habanero, paprika, cayenne, whatever types of peppers you like. But get all them started. A lot of those, especially the hotter the pepper, the longer it takes to germinate and the longer it takes to reach to harvest. One of the hot peppers I'm planting can take up to 120 days. So that's 4 months before I see the first harvest on it. And it can take up to 30 days to germinate. So potatoes. I'm currently in the process right now of planting my potatoes. I'm a little behind schedule. Yesterday, and actually most of this coming week, unfortunately for me, but yesterday just massively poured rain most of the day. And then this week's pretty high chance of rain most every day. In fact, right before I started this video, it was bright sunshine. And I don't know if you can tell it now, but I got pretty good cloud cover, and I'm praying right this second it doesn't dump on my head as I'm trying to do this. So anyway, potatoes I should have already had in the ground, but I still have a little bit of a window to do it, and so would you, especially if you're going to do them in a small raised bed, a grow bag, or I'm going to do a video on planting them in a cardboard box. Yep, you can do that too. So another thing to direct seed is radishes. I'm going to be doing 2 different varieties. I'm going to be doing your standard cherry bell radish and one called a French breakfast. It's kind of a longer, slender type of radish. Rutabagas. I just started rutabagas, and first time I've ever grown those, so we'll see how that works out. But rutabagas are one that you want to direct seed. You know, most root style crops you want to direct seed. There are a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, root style crops you want to direct seed. Sage. I'm getting ready to plant some sage in a tray. Spinach. Along with the rutabagas, I just direct sowed my spinach. You can also start spinach in a tray if you want. It's similar in nature to starting in a tray with a quick delivery. When I say delivery, a quick germination and or a quick growing cycle, 30-ish days. Between 30 and 40, I think, for spinach, but arugula is more like 25 to 30. But you can definitely start them both in seed trays if you want. I just happen to direct seed my spinach this time. So we're at the zucchini and squash. Obviously zucchini is a squash, but clearly it's, you know, two different things. I personally am not a humongous fan of squash. I eat it, but I absolutely love zucchini. So it definitely has a different texture and a different flavor. And so yeah, you can start both of those in seed trays. I'm getting ready to. Tomatoes, again, it's like the eggplants and peppers. They're all this part of the same family. So if you haven't planted your tomatoes yet, that would be your slicer tomatoes, maybe a cherry tomato, like an Amish paste tomato, which is one I grow. All kinds of varieties of tomatoes, right? And you got your determinate and indeterminate. Determinate means it has a set pattern of growth height, and an indeterminate means it'll just keep going until the end of the season. But it's still not too late. Go ahead and get them started for yourself if you haven't done so yet. And then the last one I have on my list is turnips. I just direct, along with the rutabagas in the same raised bed I have, I just direct seeded a whole bunch of turnips. So we're gonna see how that goes as well. So that's the list of fruits and vegetables that I have. There's a few others that we could do a honorary mention to. I'm growing some tomatillos this year for the first time. So tomatillo is similar in the nature to a tomato plant, and it's highly used in like salsa verde, that type of thing. And then if you haven't thought about it, it's now time to start flowers. All kinds of flowers. I've already started some, but this coming week I'm going to start, I think I got 8 varieties of zinnias. And right off the top of my head, sunflowers will be another one that I'll be starting. And all these are in seed trays, so I'll be starting them in seed trays. And yeah, so almost all flowers can be started right about now. And so, yeah, I just think it's a most wonderful time of year to get started. And so if you can see right here, flanking me, these are some of the very first tomatoes. These are the Hossinator variety from HossTools.com. First time I've been growing the Hossinator. So far, I'm loving the way they're growing. I up-potted these about 2 weeks ago now. Now, I started these on the 4th of January. And so they went from my seed starting tray to a little 4-inch pot to these 1-gallon pots. And you can see how beautiful they are. And just right now, they're probably, 12 inches tall, something like that. And I would say the stem on this thing is probably 1/4 inch thick easily. So it's in very good shape. I haven't up-potted all of them yet because they don't all need up-potting. They kind of grow at different paces, each individual plant. One of the ways to know if a plant needs up-potting, especially from a 4-inch pot, but if you happen to grow in not these types of cell trays here, but if you grow in like those little plastic garden trays, you'll know when the roots come out of the bottom that it's time to up-pot that. It's also if you get about 2 sets of true leaves. Most plants are anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. But if you get 2 sets of true leaves, it's time to up-pot that thing. And so same thing would apply with a 4-inch container. If you have a little 4-inch pot, when you can pick it up and see the roots, any roots coming out of the bottom, time to move that thing into a bigger vessel so that it doesn't start wrapping the roots and getting root bound. And the same thing would apply for these. There are holes in the bottom. Now, I don't anticipate having to up-pot these any further than these 1-gallon pots. It's kind of the way I built the timing into them. But if I did find the roots coming out of there too hard, too much, I could always go ahead and get slightly bigger, maybe 3-gallon pots, and put them in there. These are the ones for my market farm that will go in my garden, literally in my plots, in say another month or so. And so when I plant these, I'll plant them even deeper again, because tomatoes happen to be one of those that the deeper you plant it, it has these little fine hairs on it. And so those hairs become roots. if they're in soil. So the deeper you plant a tomato, the bigger the root ball should get, and the stronger and healthier the plant should get. So let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to do an actual video on up potting. I think it might be worthwhile, both the difference in seed starting mix to potting mix, if you have it, if there is a difference, which I do have a slight difference in mine. And then if kind of how to go about it. So yeah, just let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate it. And I just want to thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video. Please like, subscribe, and share, and ring that bell for notifications on future videos coming out. I got more videos coming out this week even. There's all kind of videos. I got more videos coming up on the raised beds if the weather will let me do them. I'm going to do one on flowers. So yeah, some pretty cool stuff coming up. I hope this video helped you. Hope you're ready and excited to get started in the garden, planting, seed starting, and direct seeding all kinds of fruits and vegetables, and just get this thing cranked up. I want to thank you so much again. Take care and God bless you. Have an amazing day in the Lord. We'll see you next time.